Ah, well, you see, the key word here, of course, is almost. He's fine. I heard him screaming my name as the ambulance took him away.
Don't trust us, we know diddly squat about what we're doing.
Just about as little as last week.
Less so.
Yeah, we've gained less knowledge, in fact we've lost knowledge over the week.
How are we, Ian?
Very well today, bit warm.
Muggy.
It's not nice.
Yeah. So, episode 2.
Yeah.
Hammer gets nailed. I'm enjoying being back in the saddle.
It's good. It's good to have a little routine.
Before we start this week's episode, a couple of things I'd like to mention. I referred to Police Squad as Naked Gun last week as being a predecessor to Sledgehammer, but of course, yeah, I meant Police Squad, not Naked Gun, which came after.
Yeah.
The movie's based on Police Squad.
I think people understood what you meant, but well,
just annoys me.
Apologise profusely, regardless.
And I wanted just to quickly provide a little overview of how I came to be a Sledgehammer fan.
Okay.
We did not really discuss that. I mean, we know that you haven't really seen it. Well, this is your first time watching all the episodes.
I'm watching it as we go.
Yep. So for me, and I think in the UK, it wasn't a massive hit, you could say. It wasn't prime time. So in the States, it's being shown, 8:30, I think? 8 o'clock at...
We'll maybe come to that, because I think it's relevant to one of the jokes in this episode.
Sure. But I remember catching this as a kid, maybe about 12, 13, and I can imagine the type of comedy at the sort of superficial level. It was hilarious to a 13-year-old.
Of course.
Obviously not picking up on the satire and the nuances to the comedy, just enjoying the fact that a guy would be shooting at a vending machine and blowing up buildings and being ridiculous.
You can almost see Sledge as a buffoon if you don't understand what it is that's being satirised.
Yes. Well, he is a buffoon.
But for a reason.
Of course. So yeah, I watched this. I mean, it wasn't, like I say, it wasn't on at prime time over here as far as I can remember. It was on about 11:30. So I used to either stay up late and watch it as a kid or record it whenever I could. And I think it was on just before or just after Prisoner Cell Block H.
I think everything was on just before Prisoner Cell Block H. That was like the last show before Channel 3 turned off for the night.
True. But it was a bit of a cult, certainly within my sort of group of friends. I think one of us had noticed it and told the other person to watch it. And so it was a compelling viewing. But an underground hit in the UK as far as I am aware.
Well, I'm not even aware of having heard of it prior to our discussions on the Columbo podcast about it.
What happened was that it was shown at an odd time, an odd period, because when I say time, I mean time in terms of years. So it was on the late 80s, early 90s perhaps in the UK. But this was before, obviously, DVDs and the internet. So if it wasn't on TV, I saw it sort of live, as it were, when they were showing it on the TV. But then I didn't see it for years because it was between that period, sort of the early 90s and the late 90s, when I think these things would be getting released on DVD, and then I obviously bought it. I bought my own copy, and you can get them all on YouTube and what have you these days. So there was a period there for about 10 years. If the TV didn't show it, you weren't watching it.
Even if there was a VHS box set, if you didn't have it in the shop in your town, you couldn't go on Amazon.
Precisely. So I was relying on VHSs that perhaps they'd recorded from the TV, and not every episode. So there was unlike Columbo, which has never been off the TV. Throughout the entire world, I don't think it's always been shown. There was a period probably of about 10 years when it's pretty hard to watch Sledgehammer. But we can all watch it now as often as we like, thankfully.
By purchasing it from a reputable source.
Of course, that would be the best way to do it. Get your own copy.
We've each done that.
We certainly have. You've also, some people have been tweeting, and I've noticed, mentioning the comic book.
Yes, I bought those as well in advance of this.
But you haven't read them yet.
No, I have not.
In case you spoil anything.
That's right. I've also lost them. I'll have to track them down at home. They'll be there somewhere.
Yeah. You didn't tell me you were buying them. So you got them imported from the States and it cost you more to import. You could have told me, and I could have...
2 of each.
2 of each, yeah.
Well, I'll let you look at them.
Oh, brilliant.
From a far distance.
Will we start this week's episode?
Well, we could do that.
And how shall we do that?
Our traditional method is via the summary.
Crack on.
In Hammer Gets Nailed, Sledgehammer is selected by a television network for a ride-along feature for the nightly news. Things predictably go wrong, and Hammer is dismissed from the force. When an explosive situation occurs during his school crossing patrol, he must race against the clock to save the city.
We're getting there, Ian, getting there.
Yeah, I need to work on these. I'm out of practice, it's tricky.
You are. And because of the style of the show and just the format, it's not going to be as easy because the plot isn't...
It's not the critical...
It's not as intrinsic to the enjoyment, yeah. Anyhow, where do we start this week?
Well, we've got the opening credits, which we should say are the same. So it seems to be... Again, I know we're not talking about Columbo, but contrasting to a show which had no opening credits.
Mm-hmm. Yes, very distinct. And again, to contrast with Columbo, there is a theme tune, which obviously Columbo didn't have.
Indeed.
So we'll take it as read. Each week, the credits are the same.
I mean, the first key moment of the episode then is the captain summoning Hammer in his traditional style.
There's a nice line here. Hammer informs us that he doesn't watch the news, he makes it.
I suppose he probably believes that.
I'm sure he does. So what does Trunk want to speak to him about?
There's a problem.
What's that?
The TV reporter Phil Gum from Action News has selected Hammer for a ride-along.
Yes. Now, I think Trunk says that on paper.
Perfect record.
Perfect. All these arrests and... Well, not even sure about convictions.
No, yes, they're all in prison, he says. We don't even know if any of them did anything, and Hammer says they're all guilty to me.
They all look guilty to me. Trunk, however, he's got a dilemma.
Well, he's got this issue with Hammer generally, doesn't he?
I've been fighting with City Hall for over 2 months now. They're talking about making cutbacks. The mayor is threatening this entire department. Do you understand what I am saying?
You want me to kill the mayor?
No!
I'm saying this report could either help us or hurt us. It could be good PR or bad PR.
I'm ordering you to act responsibly.
That's one of my favourite lines in this episode.
It's brilliant. You want me to kill the mayor?
You just don't know, is he serious? Does he mean it? Or is he just teasing?
But he's also, at the end there we hear him saying he wants Sledge to act responsibly, and I don't think that's there's any chance of that happening.
I don't think there's any concept of what acting responsibly is, or at least his concept of acting responsibly is different from other people.
Yeah. In the communal area within the precinct, Dory Doreau, she's showing around Gum and his crew.
Yes, he's already arrived.
Now, there appears to be another perp who has had his hands covered in ink for
We get the whole
fingerprinting.
story behind his crime as well. He's a serial killer who's been massaging women to death in his establishment, and he's been arrested, but he's also been named Cosmo's Bachelor of the Year.
And Hammer mistakes him for Gum, shakes his hand, and then is introduced to the real reporter.
Which ends up in an inky mess on the white suit that Gum is wearing.
Not a great start, is it, for the relationship?
It doesn't get mentioned, it doesn't even appear that Gum notices, but we assume at some point he will and will be furious.
So whilst Hammer is ruining the white suit of the TV reporter, we see that Captain Trunk is begging Dory Doreau to try and keep Hammer under control.
Yeah, and she makes it clear that that's not likely to happen.
No, and there are a whole lot of suggestions. It's bargained down to if she can at least just keep the gunplay off camera. That's about all she can try and promise.
And she doesn't even seem that confident that it's possible.
No. Another arrested character, another criminal comes in, and we hear part of his story.
Yes, he's another man that Hammer's picked up for an offence.
What did he do to him?
Well, Hammer claimed to have no handcuffs, so he trussed him to the front of his police car like a deer.
Called him Bambi.
Called him Bambi.
Hammer is quite proud of this.
Yeah, he's about to tell the story, and Doreau shuts him down quite sharply.
So we're now in the car. We're starting this ride along, aren't we?
Yeah, and the reporter quite irresponsibly asks Hammer to do a piece to camera whilst he's driving the car.
Yeah, he's only got himself to blame here.
Absolutely.
Did you hear a little reference to J.T. Hooker?
Yes. I got that. That was a good one. And he's doing this piece to camera. He's talking about how real policing's not like on television. And he nearly runs down this elderly couple while he's doing it. And as the car slows down, the windscreen's hit by what appears to be a plate, which breaks.
Yep.
And Hammer draws his gun immediately, determined to sort this out.
As an aside, before we move on, Anne-Marie Martin, who plays Dory Doreau, was in T.J. Hooker.
Right.
Quite a powerful episode, relative to the show itself.
Yeah.
We head over to the source of the plate.
Yes. Hammer's here to solve this crime and arrives with a TV crew and weapons drawn.
Yeah, it's a domestic disturbance. And
Yes.
Hammer demands to know how it all started.
The woman doesn't want to explain on camera.
Yeah, she seems quite coy and reluctant to divulge.
Yes, so she whispers it to Hammer, who announces that it's because her husband is a lousy lover.
And he should eat more oysters.
Yes.
Or eat oysters.
So he lunges at Hammer and gets restrained, and Dory takes control of the situation.
Yeah, she's trying to be sensible. She asks how long it's been going on. He says they've just been married a week.
Yeah.
So I think she realises it's a bit of a lost cause, but advises he seeks counselling.
He unconvincingly agrees.
Yeah, he's checking Dory out as she's saying this.
Yeah, he's not in any way persuasive.
Doesn't bode well for that marriage, I don't think. Now, at the same time, Hammer is talking to the woman.
Yes, and she begs not to be left alone
Uh-huh.
with this guy.
He tells her that he doesn't believe in counselling, and he slips her a grenade.
He does. That's going to protect her, obviously.
Yeah.
We don't hear about it getting used, so that's positive, I suppose.
It's like, well, it's a threat, isn't it?
Yeah. We see them next in a shop, grocery store.
Well, before we see them there, we see the owner being robbed.
There's an armed robbery in progress. The robber knocks out the shopkeeper, and as Hammer comes in, he pretends that he is the shopkeeper.
And the Gum, who is really unimpressed with the police, we know this, is talking about the stereotype of cops drinking coffee and eating donuts. Hammer has issues with that.
Well, it explains why it's not a good idea.
Okay, I would like to address that particular stereotype, if I may.
Fine.
Now, your stereotypical donut is nothing but dough and sugar fried in fat, am I right?
Right.
Now, that fat gums up your arteries and goes to your brain, and you turn liberal. And the next thing you know, Barry Manilow's on the turntable, and you're not going to work, and you're voting for gun control. You see what I'm saying? You see that connection?
Yes.
That's why I eat granola.
There's so many, I suppose, contradictions and things that you wouldn't imagine there.
It's a logical progression.
Yeah. But granola is not the type of food that you'd have thought Sledgehammer would be eating.
No, and the revelation that donuts cause liberalism is quite important, I think.
It was quite manic in it as well. I enjoyed that.
He clearly has a passion for this issue.
Oh, I'd say so. Hammer realises.
Something's amiss.
Mm-hmm. And the robber, what does he do? I think he reaches for his gun.
Yes, he does. He goes for his weapon, and Hammer deals with that.
How does he deal with it?
I don't know. I didn't write that down.
I think he just pulls his own gun before then.
Yeah, there wasn't anything dramatic or
No.
unusual. He just pulls his gun first, or better. And eventually the guy's restrained.
He
fairly
is.
easily.
Now, he tries to justify his actions in what way?
He makes the point that he's stealing out of necessity. He's not a bad guy, but he needs to eat.
Yes, he doesn't have enough money to feed himself. I think he's trying to, play up in the sympathy.
Hammer's not sympathetic.
He's not. How does he deal with this?
Well, he realises that he's in a store, and conveniently there's a basket of out-of-date food.
Dating back to the 50s, some of it.
Yeah, I guess this is some kind of comment on grocery stores.
Yeah, I would suggest that perhaps they're not regarded as a place where you'll get the freshest stuff of food.
I don't know if that's still the case or if health and safety legislation has put paid to that practice, but in any event, Hammer's able to find food, and some of it's not quite out of date enough.
Mm-hmm.
And he picks out the rottenest, vilest pieces and makes the armed robber eat them.
We cut to later on in the scene and we see he's ate a pail of this out-of-date food.
And he eventually passes out.
There's a couple of lines in that scene that I quite liked. He threatens to stick the robber's head in the microwave and set it to sandwich. And he also calls him scum and bones. I like his... You'll come to realise this. He loves calling people scum suckers and things like that.
Yeah.
It's an endearing term. I'd love to be called a scum sucker by Sledgehammer.
Well, we've all got dreams. Outside the store, Gum is still not impressed.
No, he thinks that the police, and this is an example of the police stumbling upon a crime as opposed to real police work, out and preventing crime. They just got lucky.
Yeah, happened to be the right time, right place. It wasn't a plan or a sting or anything that they'd any sort of credit to be given
Yeah,
for.
but Sledge disagrees. He says the reason this happened is because crime is everywhere. It's ongoing.
And just as he says that,
His car is stolen.
yeah, Dory notices and points out, and Sledge takes immediate action.
They commandeer a vehicle and we have a trust me line. Trust me, I know what I'm doing.
But he clearly doesn't because it's a learner driver.
Yes, so the instructor is out of the car, but the rest of them jump into this car and force the learner to pursue the stolen vehicle.
Absolutely. She's got a couple of good lines in her scene.
What are they?
Well, she's asked to chase this guy, and she says, just don't ask me to parallel park. And at the conclusion of the scene, she notes that, does this mean I won't get my licence? Because by then, she's lost this chase, the bad guy got away, and the vehicle they were driving went over a cliff with Gum still inside.
Yes, the rest of them jumped out at the last moment, apart from Gum.
Yeah.
And it looks like he might be dead.
Well, it's possible, and his colleague says to Hammer, you better hope so.
Alas, the tone of the show, he's not dead.
No, he's not.
So we're back in Trunk's office.
Trunk feels that Hammer and Doreau let him down.
Yeah, Doreau is quietly but intensely being reprimanded, and you can see Trunk trying to restrain himself more than usual. He's simmering, and he asks Doreau to leave so he can speak to Hammer.
Well, she starts to speak up for Hammer as if she hasn't done anything herself. Yeah, she failed in her assignment also.
Hammer plays it down. And I think I think that was a line at the top of the show where he talks about, the key word was almost.
Yeah.
He almost killed. Now, I have to say that this is a fine example of David Rashi's performance as a Sledgehammer. He's right up there with Chevy Chase for me in terms of how he reacts, his facial expressions. Just he's a fantastic physical actor. I think he cracks me up just watching how he contorts his face and the way he says things. It does remind me of Chase, and I think those two are my favourite of that type of acting.
It's definitely clear what he thinks or what Hammer thinks at this stage, and he tells Trunk that he's been trying to soften Gum up.
How has he done this?
By chewing it? No, never mind.
Ah. Yeah, I've probably missed that one all these years.
He's sent flowers and candy, and he's prepared a terrible singogram.
Yeah, so he opens the door, and this singing telegram comes in, and it's about, sorry you fell off the ledge from your friend Sledge, or something like that. And Hammer seems really pleased with himself. He thinks it's a great idea, and he actually says, he talks about the A rhyming scheme.
Yeah.
That was nice.
Trunk's not impressed.
Trunk's not impressed at all.
No.
So we're at the bar, and this is quite a sort of a stereotype, isn't it, of the cop at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Sitting in the bar, him and Dory.
They're watching Roadrunner.
Yeah. And Hammer wants to see the Roadrunner succeed.
No, he wants to see Wile E. Coyote succeed for once.
That's what I meant, yeah.
And they switch over to the news for Gum's report. Mm-hmm. And Hammer says, is it Hammer, I think, says, don't worry, it's not going to be that bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's quite bad.
It's terrible. We see Gum, the camera pulls back, and Gum is presenting the news in a near full body cast.
Yeah, both arms are on poles and full casts.
Yeah.
He says that the police are nothing but a bunch of pistol-packing, trigger-happy brutes.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad.
He says they're dangerous.
Yes. They leave the bar.
Well, no, before they leave the bar, this is one of these lines I kind of picked up on. They say that Miami Vice is coming on, and Hammer shoots the TV.
Yep.
And this is obviously a thing because Sledgehammer was scheduled up against Miami Vice, which caused it to, or some would say caused it to suffer in the viewing figures.
Well noticed. We're next in the locker room of the precinct. This is the first time we've been there.
Yeah, and Hammer clearly misunderstands the criticism he's receiving from other cops.
They're being a bit sarcastic and doesn't understand why.
It goes over his head. People have been laid off, and the word fink has been written on his locker.
Yes, had you heard of that expression before?
I hadn't, but I looked it up.
An unpleasant or contemptible person.
Well, I looked up in Urban Dictionary and I got a rat, a snitch, an informer, a stoolie. The very lowest form of human scum except for tax collectors.
Fair enough, but the first part doesn't make sense in this context. He's not a rat, he's not a stoolie, he's not an informer.
Well, there you go. Two definitions, one word. Essentially, it's an unpleasant term.
And again, this is to do with, I suppose, a time slot. So they couldn't swear or have anything unsuitable.
Yeah. Well, that was, again, I mean, I've not done too much reading on this, but one of the things that I read was that the show was somewhat sanitised by the network.
Yeah, I mean, I think they were worried about even the comic violence. I think they were unsure about how it would be taken.
Yeah. From what little I've read so far, it does seem that they had some issues getting this show put together and aired in the format that would be successful.
Yeah. Trunk appears and Hammer complains about the graffiti.
And Trunk takes responsibility.
Yeah, and he has some bittersweet news to deliver.
Hammer, ever since your brilliant performance yesterday, City Hall has been up in arms. And the mayor has ordered me to lay off half my men. Now, the only consolation I can think of is that I am rid of you.
I'm suspended again, right? Pig.
No, Hammer, you don't understand. You are fired, sacked, dumped, banished, terminated. You're out of here. You're history. That's a wrap.
Just what are you getting at?
Hammer, you are no longer a cop.
I enjoyed that.
Hammer's, yeah. He doesn't process information very quickly sometimes.
No, he doesn't. At the end of that, well, we heard, he says, you're no longer a cop. And I think even Trunk, if you watch, he slinks away.
Yeah, he knows that that's going to be
Devastating.
a tough blow for Hammer. Yeah.
And he's not sure to imagine how Hammer would react.
I was going to say a hammer blow. Yeah.
So he disappears and Dory appears in the scene.
Yeah, she sympathises and...
But not yet. She does sympathise, but rather than, straight away she immediately talks about a new career.
Hammer explains, though, he spoke to a career advisor when he was at school and he was told he would be a cop or a game show host.
So we next see him, takes the advice of Doreau.
He does, he's got a new job very quickly, so he's obviously not wanting to fall into the donuts and liberalism and not getting a job and voting for gun control trap.
And it's a position of authority he has, a responsible position.
Yeah, he's on the school crossing patrol.
Mm-hmm. And old habits obviously die hard.
He reacts instinctively as a car drives through his stop sign and he shoots out the tyre and brings it to a halt.
And we have a nice little scene here as well, a nice little line where the kids are obviously impressed by Hammer's gun and they ask to if they can see it.
Yeah.
What does he say?
Well, he points out that it's not a toy and he does a wee twirl with and puts it away, so he's not just letting anyone play with his gun. He's not... It's responsible gun ownership.
Yeah, but it's not, that's the point, I think. It was like, this isn't a toy, and then he immediately gives it a little spin and uses it like a toy, it's not...
But he's not letting the kids use it, at least.
No, he's not letting them use it, but he does show it off as if it is a toy, it's something to be played with.
Yeah.
But only if you're an adult.
Sure.
Back to the precinct with a quick scene here.
Yeah, Dory wants the captain to rehire Hammer to solve the issues that are coming up.
Yeah, whether or not it's a coincidence, but the crime seems to be on the increase and they're not coping very well.
No, there's a bomb that's been planted in the business district.
Mm-hmm.
Trunk's sending Dory, who doesn't think she can really help, and he says he knows, but it's just for appearances.
Yeah, an odd line that, isn't it? She says to him, what can I do on my own? And he says, look pretty or something like that.
Yeah, I think Trunk is obviously fighting this war with the mayor in City Hall, who's taking away half his force, and he's trying to show maybe that they're not effective without those men.
We're back on the street, and we see Hammer frisking kids before he hears about the bomb on the radio.
Yeah, he hijacks a kid's skateboard so he can attend.
Yes, very Marty McFly.
He says it's official school crossing guard business.
And he heads down to the business district.
Yeah. He arrives by skateboard.
And he bangs into Gum, who is reporting there with his crew.
Yeah, not dissimilar to when he drove into the roadblock in the pilot episode.
Yeah, he doesn't have much time for Gum. I think the fact is he's been fired anyway. There's no need for him to pander to him.
No.
And he tells him, don't worry about it, I'll sign your cast later.
Dory advises Hammer of the bomber's demands, and one of them is that an end to the Star Wars program, obviously Reagan's satellite defense system.
Of course, yeah, what she says, they demanded $1 million, a private plane, and an end to the Star Wars program.
And Hammer says, yeah, well, 3 movies were enough. And I think anyone who's seen the prequels would agree.
I have not seen the prequels, I've only seen the first 3, but I would agree anyway. I think that is spot on. I've not heard anyone say that the others have been a necessity.
Yeah, well, the new ones might be better, but the 3 prequels were disappointing.
He goes into the shop. Well,
yes.
First of all, he's told that it's in a clock, so he says, well, this will be a piece of cake.
Yes, but it's a clock shop.
It's a clock. Nice. And, so there's dynamite attached to something.
Dory takes the TV camera and follows.
Well, yeah, because Gum says, I don't want to make a hero out of this guy.
Yeah.
So Dory, again, showing her loyalty, grabs the camera from the cameraman and goes into the shop.
Yeah. Now, the method he uses to find the bomb is interesting.
Well, before that, Sledge tells her to get out. Only a fool would come in here. Then realising what he's just said.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell me about this method of finding...
Well, he's gone through about 10 clocks individually. They're sitting on the table. And then he shoots out the electrics. So obviously not a single one of those clocks was either battery powered or running on its own power.
Yeah, I mean, it's not foolproof. I think it's fairly smart. I mean, it would take out some of them.
Yeah.
Although I'm not sure how to be shooting our bullets in a shop with dynamite. I don't know how that would...
There's that as well. Or shooting an electrical system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it pays off on this occasion, and there's only one ticking sound left.
We find out, however, that he is not a bomb disposal expert.
But he has a book.
Yep, his book of the month.
Books about bomb disarming.
Yeah.
And he works his way through it, chapter by chapter.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, he needs volume 2 to actually disarm the bomb, which he doesn't have.
So we have the action movie cliche.
Yeah, which wire will he cut?
And you sweat comes out your forehead, and then you pick one and you snip it.
Yeah, and we see crowds cheering, "Go Hammer, go!" And we get to the captain who's cheering for the bomb initially, but realises he should probably cheer for Hammer, and it comes around.
Well, we see, you're right, we see the crowds outside cheering, so the general public are on his side, and we also see his ex-fellow cops cheering as well.
Yeah, so they've forgiven him.
So he saves the day.
Yeah, he has to make his choice. He picks the right wire. Bomb doesn't go off. The alarm sounds on the clock, but the bomb does not.
They walk outside. Gum's there. What does Hammer do?
Well, first of all, Gum says to him, "I guess even a cretin can look good on TV." And the response is, "Don't flatter yourself, Gum." I like it.
Yes. He then reaches into his pocket. Gum jumps back, fearing the worst, but he pulls out a pen.
Yeah, and he says to Gum that he should give the rest of the police a second look after Hammer himself gave them a bum rap the day before.
And I think, again, this is developing his character. He tries to learn. He's not totally self-centred. I mean, he's focused on his ideas and beliefs, but they are at his heart for what he believes to be the greater good. He's not doing it for any personal gain or any malice.
Yeah. I liked his signature.
Yeah?
He just writes the initials and puts a squiggly line under it.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
We're back over to Trunk's office, and we've had an unusual situation or circumstance.
Trunk is thanking Hammer.
Hammer, because of your effort, the mayor has allowed me to rehire my entire force. And it has also been approved that we all receive a 20% increase in benefits. I never thought I'd live to see the day when I'd say this, but Hammer, I'm proud to have you on the force. If there's anything that I can do to show my appreciation, just let me know. Thank you, and get out.
Well, actually, there is one thing.
No.
Well, you said anything. No, you said it. I mean, if you don't say it...
All right. What is it?
What is that one thing Hammer wants?
He gets to, it's basically play William Tell with the captain who puts an apple in his head and Hammer's going to shoot it.
Yep. But Trunk at the last minute decides, no, I'm not doing this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And he takes the apple down and bites into it.
And Sledge shoots it anyway.
Crack shot right through his fingers and the apple.
Yeah, I don't think Trunk's happy with that.
He's not. I think he's very nervous.
He gets the last line of the show. He also was in all those clips that we had.
Yeah, I didn't realise that until listening back there. But I think this episode, the reason for that is Trunk, the character, has been sort of pivotal in driving forward the plot and the storyline.
Yep.
And there we have it.
It's a decent episode. It's interesting though, it's very different to how they put the pilot together.
In what way?
Well, they're not selling the concept, I don't think, so much with this episode. It's almost like they're straight into sort of series mode, as it were. I found it interesting. I don't know if that Miami Vice joke was quite as deep as I reported it there, because the second episode of the show, would they know when they're making this? Maybe they would know where they're going to be scheduled.
Maybe some of the listeners can let us know, some of our American listeners who watched it at the time or knew about TV at the time can inform us what the situation is in terms of the network programming.
Yeah, that'd be good. We'd like to hear from you. If you have a look on sledgehammerpodcast.com, you'll be able to comment on the show notes for the specific episode. It's a good place. We found in the past it's a good place to get some conversation going.
What about Twitter?
We're at Sledgecast, same as we are on Facebook.
Before we wrap up this episode, Ian, do you want some trivia, some production information?
Always want some trivia and production information.
26th of September 1986 was the original air date. This episode was directed by Charles Braverman, born in 1944. Directed Beverly Hills 90210. This is his first of 6 Sledgehammer episodes.
Okay.
Now, when I noticed, I recalled something. Braverman stood out for me. And sure enough, his brother, Bart Braverman, was one of the protesters alongside Jeff Goldblum in A Case of Immunity.
The Columbo episode with the
Legation.
Legation, I was going to say embassy.
Two very high-profile writers this week.
Okay.
Now, Al Jean, or Al Jean, I'm not sure how you're pronouncing this, but you'll recognise the name.
Simpsons writer.
Yes, born in 1961, he's won 8 Emmys. He is the producer of The Simpsons, The Garry Shandling Show. This is the first of 5 Sledgehammer episodes. Also, The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson, Alf, and Teen Angel. This show was co-written with Michael Reese,
Okay.
who was born in 1959. He's won 4 Emmys. He was also a producer and writer on The Simpsons. He has also written or co-written 5 Sledgehammer episodes. And he has also produced and written for Garry Shandling, Teen Angel, and The Tonight Show, and Alf. So I'm assuming they're a partnership.
Bit of a team, yeah.
Yeah.
You can see some of the, I mean, if you watch The Simpsons, there's some of that satirical stuff fairly prominent, especially in the early episodes.
Definitely. Guest stars. Phil Gum was played by Ronnie Shell, born in 1931, known for Gomer Pyle. Done lots of voiceover work for cartoons and things like that throughout the decades. Battle of the Planets, Captain Caveman, Good Morning World, and The Andy Griffith Show. He acted in that. Mentioned him before. Andy Griffith's obviously Matlock.
Right.
But most famous for The Andy Griffith Show back in the 60s. And it's actually on Netflix in the UK now.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, good. I like it. I enjoy it.
You enjoy everything?
Yeah, I enjoy a lot of old TV, old American TV. Leslie Morris played Officer Mayjoy. Now, he was one of the officers, so it's a small part just now, in the locker room.
It was nonplussed.
But this is first of 31 episodes in Sledgehammer playing Officer Mayjoy.
Recurring character.
Yeah.
Okay.
I presume it's called, pronounced Mayjoy. Majoy.
Majoy,
Majoy. I don't know.
Mahoy?
Mahoy, maybe. He has been in some of my favourite movies of all time. Cobra, The Terminator, Tango and Cash, Rocky IV. And he's also been in Star Trek The Next Generation.
Rocky 4 is probably my favourite Rocky movie.
Yeah, it's nonsense. It's fun, but it's nonsense.
Yeah, it's just such an entertaining.
Yeah. Colleen Maloney. She was the fighting wife.
Right, okay.
Reason I'm mentioning her is, well, she was in ER, Knots Landing, Married with Children, LA Law, Happy Days, and Star Trek Enterprise.
There's a bit Star Trek thing going on
Still
here.
is, yeah. We've got Eric Codd. He was a cameraman.
Right.
Generally a stuntman, so he's been in Ghostbusters 2, Fast and Furious, Scream 3, Midnight Run, one of my favourites, The Running Man. He's acted in Total Recall, Robocop 2, and Star Trek Next Generation.
I'm sensing a theme.
Mert Rich was the store clerk who was robbed.
He was in this for about 8 seconds.
Mm-hmm. He is primarily a producer of Cheers, Rock, The George Carlin Show, and Sister Sister, but he has also written for The Simpsons, Cheers, The George Carlin Show, 10 episodes of Sledgehammer,
Okay.
and Second City TV. Second City was a
We've talked about this in the Columbo podcast, the
David
Canadian show.
Yeah, Canadian show. A lot of famous
John Candy.
Yeah, and Rick Moranis, etc. And David Rash came through that as well.
Right.
Jennifer Barlow was the singing telegram. Now she owns Rebel Girl Films and other production companies, but she's acted in Star Trek Next Generation, 30-something Dallas Key West. She's produced and edited Sledgefest from 2010. Now, we'll need to investigate more.
What?
Well, listen, we won't discuss that just now, but Sledgefest, maybe something we can look into and discuss in more detail.
Is this something I should avoid for now for spoiler reasons?
I'm not sure. I must admit, like I say, I'm not an expert at this point in time in all things Sledgehammer. I am aware of Sledgefest, but we can look into that and chat about that in more detail in the coming episodes, I think.
Okay.
So that's me. Next week we've got an episode entitled Witless.
I can only imagine who that refers to.
Yeah. Before we go, favourite line from this week's episode?
Yeah, no, I'm going to go with the one at the start about killing the mayor.
Okay, yes. I would probably go with that myself, but to be different, I like, it's not so much a line, but it's the guns are not toys, followed by him playing with his gun.
Gunplay, yeah. Okay. I've already done social media and joined us on the forums, but reviews are so important. We need more people to find the show. So if you could please, even if you don't listen on iTunes, if you've got an iPhone or an iPad, nip into the podcasts app. You can leave us a rating and a wee review there. If you have a desktop computer, either Mac, PC, whatever else, use the iTunes application. You can review us, rate us in there. You don't have to listen to the show through it, but the reviews there make a huge difference on all the platforms. So if you don't mind, if you've got 2-3 minutes to do that, it would be a big help. Thank you.
Cheers. That's us.
Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Cheerio.
Bye.